This is the Talk Dare Issues, and you're with me, Memory Banda. We are at Zaluso Studio, and today we'll be discussing about active youth participation and activism and how impactful young people are working in the communities, changing their communities. And today I'm joined by Linley and Tanaka. These are amazing young people that have actively been involved in national level advocacy, community level advocacy. And young people advocating for the things that they need in their communities is very important. And young people are the key assets in their communities. Linley is an advocate and a change maker working with SAT Malawi. And Tanaka is an advocate and a student at UNILA University. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And when we talk about youth activism and active youth participation, it's a daily talk with organizations and at community level. I would like to understand, what does it mean when we say youth activism? I'll start with you, Linley.
Okay, thank you so much, Memory. Youth activism, I can't say it with the describe in the same way.
Yeah.
As for me, I describe youth activism as an activity whereby young people are taking leading role in making sure that we change things for the country. Not just the country, but the world. So when young people are taking lead, and when young people understand that there is need for change, and that as youth we have the power to make that change or to contribute to that change, to me that's youth activism. Yeah.
So I would like to add on her definition of what youth activism is.
Yeah.
In my own thinking of how I understand youth activism, I feel like youth activism is understanding oneself. What are your personal needs, and how do these personal needs relate to what a general youth in our whole society needs? And then finding the common things that all of us youths as in Malawi we want, and then pushing it further to see that we are getting what we need by following a process where you can actually talk to the officials that we are missing these certain things, but you're not giving us, up until doing demand creation. So when I talk about youth activism, demand creation is what I talk about and why I need to hear.
Perfect. And you're both advocates, and you have done so much. How did you become advocates? I'll start with you, Tanaka.
Okay, so my journey for advocacy started when I was seeing the statistics on youth. As we know, Malawi is full of youths, and youths are cutting across all different sectors. And if you talk of demographic dividend, the youths are there. If you talk of sports, the youth are there.
We're everywhere.
Adolescent pregnancies, there are youths. So I was like, how do I contribute? Because whenever I'm doing things, I'm always looking at the general population. I don't know if it's the program I'm doing, public health, that ruined me into that line of thinking. But when I'm doing things, it's how does the whole general public benefit? Because if a lot of people benefit, as a country will all benefit than pursuing personal goals. So I was like, which field do I best go in where I feel like I can make most impact? So I looked at the health sector. So that's how I started advocating for things along the health sector that matter to the youths.
And Linley?
So honestly, what motivates me to be an advocate, and how is one say, like every day, what motivates me to continue doing what I do is the fact that I feel like I'm an energetic person. You know, I'm full of life. I'm a young person.
Yes.
So to me, that's the biggest motivation that I have. That so you're full of health. You are healthy, and you can do whatever that you can do. But also adding to that, I believe I'm an empowered person. I've been given the space, and I've been given opportunities, whether at work or the education that my parents have paid for. That's a motivation that I have to do the advocacy. So this is basically, you know, like my advocacy has been based on the work that I do at office, the opportunities they've been given me, the spaces that they've, you know, actually created for me. That's what has been motivating me to until now. Yeah.
Awesome. And I'd like to, you talked about opportunities, and maybe that question will come later, but I would like to understand, how do young people in the communities, how can they relate with your kind of activism? How can they become activists?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because now I'm looking at you guys, you're advocates, and you talked about opportunities that you've been given and all that. Now I'm looking at a young person in a community. Now I'm sure they're watching now and they're asking, how do I become like Lindley? How do I become like Tanaka? And how can they take it up?
I think first thing that my fellow young people out there, or anyone who would want to do advocacy, or who would want to see a particular change towards something, I think okay, what is it really that we want to see? You know,
what are the change that we want to see in our community?
Yes,
yeah.
You know, wherever you want to get.
Yeah.
And then now, you know, when it comes to advocacy, it's not just chintuja muntu modzi. Yeah. Timanena kuti muntu modzi suse zadenga.
Yeah.
And, you know, like when
yeah.
So this thing, it involves a lot of people, and you need to analyze, okay, what's the things that are happening in the community? What is it that I want? Whether it's health, whether it's education, whatever it can be. And then now, who are the right people for me, or for me to approach for this change to happen?
Yeah.
Because as I've said, it's not a one thing game.
Yes.
So you need to understand the environment that you are in and deeply understand the problem that you have, and also where you want to get with the change that you want to have.
Yeah. So the biggest question is, why do young people need to advocate for change in their communities? Why should they take part in different activities?
Okay.
Yeah? Anyone?
All right, so
Tanaka?
I wanted to add on the previous question, and I'll build on the current question.
Okay.
So
yes.
how I feel like every youth in Malawi should do advocacy of some sort is because as youths we all face problems at different levels, at village level, at city level, at country level. So advocacy doesn't mean you pinning down a minister only, or pinning your government, or pinning down a certain organization for not doing anything. But as a youth, we're supposed to look, kuti vuto mu community mwatu ndijani. Where are we lacking? Vuto li labwera bwanji. Pali muntu yomwe ayenera kumapangapo zinthu pa vuto li. So just a youth waking up.
And those are the questions that everyone need to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a youth kungodzuka and going to that authority. Let's say a school was supposed to be receiving para and you live in the same community, but para. You go to that primary school, talk to the head teacher, ask them, why isn't this happening? Advocate, because that headmaster would probably tell you a reason why and then you would emphasize on why being an advocate doesn't mean you go in the zuge and then they demonstrate.
It covers a lot of things.
It's a win-win situation, right? We all know you are most likely ubweza somoto. The advocacy jemafunika kugambirana amati zintu zimatha kugambirana. So you're trying to build on that, and then uzona so window opportunity. Because what matters is that window opportunity. Are you able to see that gap? You actually know if I approach this person won't assist me.
Yeah.
So you'd rather find someone closer.
You have to link up with the right people. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. So why I feel like it's important for a nation to develop, we need aliese arengebo gao. So as a youth, we all need to take part in our country's development. And as we know, we're a lot of us in Malawi. So each one of us contributes equally. Kamozi. Our all efforts together will be stronger.
Yeah.
That's why we have politicians always mentioning us in my campaigns, they're able to see the potential in us. But we should also, as youth on our own, be able to see our potential.
Yeah.
One youth can't save the whole nation, but together we can save the whole nation. So that's why it's important for all of us youths in Malawi to advocate in our own areas. We can even expand further from that.
Yeah, and I would like to believe that, and I like what you said, you actually chose that, I would advocate in health.
Yeah.
And Linley is also doing advocacy in health, in gender-based violence. So it's not a one thing. There's so many things that we can actually stand out. Yeah. So maybe one of you can just clarify, like, there's so many things that young people can do out there to ensure that they take part in development activities, not just in health. It's in different areas like in
gender,
climate change,
climate change.
Yes.
So most of the top things I've seen from youth work, you tend to find youths moving across sectors instead of just focusing into their own sector.
Yeah.
If you wake up and you're passionate about education, advocate for education.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of young people, not in schools. If you see the enrollment rate as you're going up decreases, we have a huge chunk getting into primary. Mamba University, you find maybe half that figure. So if you're passionate about education, venture into the education sector. If you want to do health, and health is also a broad spectrum. Health is so much.
There's so many components.
There's so many components. Like I focus on people living with HIV, and so that's my group. You always see me talk along those lines, and then when I divert Imakabe, I'm still in health, just looking at a risk factor that might influence that youth's health.
Yeah.
So if you just focus on one, osati leoli auga ukuli activity ya youth yaza climate, you're there. The education, you're there. So makanga, you're not majoring in any knowledge. You have little knowledge here, you have little
and
knowledge
maybe you
here,
cannot even see
here.
your progress, how you're progressing in one sector. Okay, so thank you so much, and we'll take a very quick break, and when we come back we'll talk more about youth mobilization. How do we mobilize the youth in the community so that they take up action and advocate for the things that they want to see in their communities? And we are back, and we are continuing the discussion. In this section, we'll be discussing about how young people can be mobilized in the communities and how they can take part in active youth participation in community development activities. And I'll start with you, Tanaka. I would like you to explain, you have been actively involved in youth work activities at community level and at national level. Why do you think that the youths don't see the need at community level to be participating in, let's say, area development committees, village committees? Why is that?
Okay, so the topmost gap I've seen with youths, they don't know those structures, right? Like last month I was talking to a couple of youths in Rumpi where I asked them, do you know what a VDC is or what an ADC is?
Yeah.
So from the start, if they do not know that structure is present, which means they don't even know that in those structures there should be a youth representative, right?
Yeah.
So which tends to already show some difficulty already in the knowledge gap. And then you ask the question, who is sitting as a youth representative if the youths do not know that they're supposed to be in such structures? So I feel like the gap knowledge on the structures present that help the youth work to flow.
Can we break it down? Maybe I understand that young people are watching right now. Can we break it down? What are some of the community structures that they can join and participate in and take an active role?
All right, so I'll just mention a couple. At village level, you have the VDC, the Village Development Committee. So in the Village Development Committee, there's a youth representative. So that's the first contact person they could go to in order, because the district plans they're formulated from village action plans.
Yes.
So if their youth representative is able to submit their plans, it means they will be reflected in the district plans. And then at district level, you have the DYO. They could talk to the district youth officer, who could also assist them in the youth work. And then at national level, I was looking at the National Youth Network. So this is a network which comprises of all the organizations that are doing youth-related work. So they could also submit their problems, and then how do they best think they can approach it to such networks, and see registered youth organizations which could actually help them to be able to achieve all this.
Yeah. So literally it moves in highlight. Yes,
okay,
you wanted
but
to say
also
something.
memory. You know, I think most of the young people take a color in the communities.
Yes.
Kupatula kuti mwina mu VDC mene mumu kapena area development committee mene isikuti aliyesa angakhalemo tilipo chigulu anthu Malawi muno sikuti tonse tingakwanemo tonse ukadzadzana memu so choyambirira tizimvetsetsa kuti there's a structure ya Ministry of Youth as Tanaka said kuti there's National Youth Network. Choyambirira tidziwe kuti kodi National Youth Network imene ndikayipeza kuti if there's a club in the community kuli ma club ena Ministry of Youth and Ministry of Education. You go to school, you find my club.
My clubs,
upita pa community, upeza matiye clubs. Yeah. I mean, it should be in us as young people. Muntu sangango bwela nkuzango kunyamula, you know what? Come, you should be part of the VDC or area development committee. Kuliza kuti come and give you ideas. Kwa kuti tilipo chikulu sizingateke.
So we
must understand the structures. Komaso mwina kutengela kuti wachinyamata pa ikasangango dziwa. You know, it is the role of the Ministry of Youth or Ministry of Education to make sure that young people will understand kuti we should understand kuti palima structures awawa. Kuliza mbiri zomwe anthu tima as a nation timatha kupangira communicate kuti palima structures akuti or palizaku zomwe chitika. For example, mezu chitika za corona, and how are we getting information? Pali njira zambiri zomwe boma likuti gawira information through SMS is, you know, masiku ano kulima SMS are free. You know, you just get messages keep on popping up. You know, makodes aja kuti okay, what do you need? I mean, like if you have a question about corona, you can just type in a question or you can select a question. You know, systems like those
things shouldn't be just available, let's say, for the pandemic, but then for even zinthu zimene zozo kunali community zofunikira utachinyamata
zidziwa. So even in class mocha, you know, we must use every opportunity that we have as a nation, also as young people ourselves, to represent information.
How do you track? Because demanding is another thing, and then tracking for making sure that thing is available is another thing.
You know, advocacy is something chokuti ukangoenda panse. Okay, I think you know, there's activism and there's advocacy. You know, there are steps which you can take. Sumangofikira muntu kangoenda muse umujankumane oti zachitika, and then you go back home, you sit follow up. So I think we need to understand there's a lot of talking in advocacy. You need to meet people, talk a lot. There's a word amateur lobbying. You know, it's not about sitting down with people, getting to understand each other. You know, you cannot all be at anango yofanana. You know, somebody can see zintu from anango ina acute, or you are seeing it in a straight line. No saying muena mukambirane ndikubwera pamozi. And then I agree. So that's advocacy, and it's going to be easy also to follow up because you know who to meet. You know who is helping you do that advocacy, and so you can easily go to that person.
Tracking is the last step in advocacy. So advocacy is not a one-day thing. It's a process. You might start the process, someone else might finish the process. But what matters is you should be able to document where you left the process. The key thing is we have to be building on what the previous advocates has left, not bringing new. We can bring in new ideologies to strengthen the previous approach. Because I'll give an example. As Malawi, the current generation, we're using what the late Kamuzu left, right? Because so we're just building on the old things. So in advocacy, it's the same approach. Someone starts the process, you build it better.
Okay, so on a final question, like we have been talking about advocacy, etc., and how young people can take an active role in their communities. What, as advocates, where do you think is the big gap when it comes to issues of advocacy and connecting to the demands that young people make in communities?
All right, I feel, and I've come to understand that gap we are to it comes body we should mobilize and together. You get tinambo kambira naza mobilization of youth.
Yes.
You know, mobilizing people, to me, it's not just about and okay, this is what we want to do and blah 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 done. No. Komano, I think it is and mindset ya tokenism when it comes to young people.
And resurfacing.
Yeah, we just want to bring young people together. If I memory, kabena pasho yage, kabena line kunchito they talk about involvement of young people. But we don't want to walk young people through the process to say, okay, this is what we are doing and we're doing it for you as youth, and this is how we want you to participate in this particular thing. So like we are missing a lot when it comes to participation, and not just them just coming together pamoja. No, they must understand. We must understand as young people, okay, this is why we're doing this thing. And it was zitipiti good.
And how sustainable this can be. Yes.
So to me, that's a big gap. A big gap.
Tanaka?
To me, the biggest gap is information. Information sharing and support. In information, I'll expand on the scope. If you look at advocacy, most advocates live in the cities. But if you go down into the rural areas, there's no youth taking up advocacy. That's where I feel like we're missing it so much, because we have a huge population of our country in the rural areas.
Yes.
But if youths in the rural areas are not advocating, that gap between an urban youth and that rural youth, that gap, if we bridge that gap, we should be able to see that impact coming from the youth sector. So it's a matter of getting that information to that rural youth so that they're able to know their right, how to demand for it, and then what mechanisms have been set up to receive their claims, and so that we can solve problems, because we youths have our problems are common problems.
Yeah, they're common,
right? But if only an urban youth knows about how to do the whole process and they claim, in Zuzu they might do it, or in Lilongo Blantyre. But if you look at somewhere like deep down in the rural areas, they won't, that service won't translate down, that policy won't descend down all the way. So that information gap already is a huge problem. And then when you talk of support, when that monopoly which is being played by, where you find organizations where they just need youths to do their work, and then they just promise them, I'll give you little money, like 5,000. The current situations, a lot of youths don't have money. You present to them such an opportunity, they are most likely to go for it because they need money. But that shouldn't be the monopoly. Youths need to win, we also need to win. So we can even change from the structure of where you look at NICOM, it's underfunded. We're making already an understatement about the youths. So if our government was to even start from funding youths, like in form of NICOM, which is the youth structure in our government, we're already making a statement that youths are important.
And you're streaming it down to the community.
If the coordinating organism has strength, I'm pretty sure we should be able to get to the rural areas of Malawi with all that information. So we start from the top, and then the youth will also, because when you're doing, it will also clear out the issues of tokenism. Because once you know you're empowered to do things in that way, no one will come to you and just offer you money. You would know that this is only a one-day thing. But let me do something that will be sustainable. We're looking at sustainable development, sustainable initiatives.
Absolutely. And we have talked a lot, and this is a continuous discussion that will go on and on. Today we'll have to end it up here. I would like to encourage all the young people out there to take part in development activities in your communities. Take a leading role. We, the young people, are assets in our communities. We are assets in our country. So go out there and make the change and be the change that you want to see in our country.